This is Gemara in Kesubos, Daf Kof Dalid, the Daf before Simchas Torah. Yes, we're a little bit late in getting this up, but B'siyata D'Shmaya, everyone will be able to catch up. We're holding on Kof Gimel and Beis on the second very, very wide line. We'll pick it up from there. V'hainu d'che'avi minzu Rav Chanina v'Rav Chia. And this is working according to that which we learned. Rav Chanina and Rav Chia were fighting about a certain problem. Amalei Rav Chanina the Rebbe. Amalei Rav Chanina the Rav Chia. B'hadi Dave says, you fight with me? Says Rav Chanina, if Torah would be forgotten from Klal Yisrael Chas v'Shalom, I'd bring it back to my pilpul. Amalei Rav Chia responds, I do even better. I ensure that the Torah won't be forgotten in the first place. And now the Gemara teaches us, what did Rav Chanina do to ensure that the Torah will never be forgotten? That I would go and I would plant flax seeds, when I grow it, and with the flax that would grow, I would make nets out of it. And I would trap deer, and I would take the deer, and the meat of the deer I feed to the Yisaymin, and I would make Megillas, scrolls, from the hides, from the cloth of the deer. And I would go to a town, the Lesbe Mikri Dardiki, a town that doesn't have a Rebbe for the young children. I would go there because and when I would write the Chamisha Chumshei Teira for 5 children, each child would get 1 sefer. And I would write 6 books of 6 klafim, I should say, of the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah for 6 children. Chol chad v'chad amri lei. To each child, I would say, learn, and then teach it to your friend. And each one will learn the Chamisha Chumshei Torah and the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, and that way the Torah will never be forgotten. How incredible are the actions of Chia. And from here, many Mefarshim point out, we see the importance of purity in every single stage of our chinuch. As we see there, Rav Chanina didn't merely teach Torah. He ensured that from the very first dot, he planted the flax, he weaved the nets, he trapped the deer, he fed the meat of the deer, he used the hides to write the different svarim, and only then would he teach the Torah. The total importance of purity, of Torah, of being involved in every single stage of the process of a chinuch. Amar Lei Rav Shimon Rebbe Afilu Mimcha. Shimon Rebbe says, is even greater than you? Are Rav Chia's actions even greater than yours? Amar Lei Rebbe respond in. Yes. Amar Lei Rishmal Rav Yaisi. 6 lines from the end of this Amar. Afilu Me'abba, even greater than your father. Amar Lei Chas V'Shalom. Loite Kesubos Yisrael. You should never see such a thing in Klal Yisrael. And now we go back to what was happening at the time of Rebbe's Ptira. Amar Lehem Lebnei Katan Ani Tzarich. He said, I need my young child. Nichnas Rav Shimon Etzlai Masal Sidrei Chachma. He taught Rav Shimon Sidrei Chachma, referring to Kabbalah, etc. Next, who entered? Amar Lehan Lebni Gadol Anitzarach. My eldest son, Nichnas Rav Gamliel Etzlai Masal Sidrei Nisias. Amar Le Bani Nog Nisi Amar Lai. And Rabbi said to him, Bani, my son, Nahog Nisiuscha Beramim. You should be your nasi amongst the exalted ones. Zeroik Mara betalmidim. Cast fear upon the talmidim. Amy says, well, really? Is that the right way to be a leader? V'aksev, the Torah says, it's Yirei Hashem Yechabed. But it says, those who fear heaven, they shall be honored. V'amar Mar. Zo'ay Yushavam El Yehuda is referring to Yeshavat. So why do we? So you're saying that? So we see from over here that even the Melech gave kavod to the Talmidei Chachamim. Surely a Nasi should be the same, and yet from the words of Rabbi, it sounded like that the Nasi was exalted and higher and more fearful than everyone else. Says the Gemara, it's true that in Sinah you have to accord the proper honor, but for Hesya, the Navi has a certain exalted stature that everyone has to fear him. Says the Gemara in the second to last line, Tanya went to the rice, Rabbi was lying on his deathbed in Sipairi, and the burial place was prepared for him in Beis Shar. Asked the Gemara in the last line, Vatani, is that true? Said We learned in a brisa that says, Sadik, Sadik, Tirdoif, righteousness, Sitkos, you shall pursue. And from here we learn how to hold Rabbi the Beis Sharim, go up to Rabbi to Beis Sharim. So we see that Rabbi lived in Beis Sharim, and you just told me that Rabbi lived in Tzipairi, and he was buried in Beis Sharim. But the brisa says he lived in Beis Sharim. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Beis Sharim have Rabbi, it's true, was usually in Beis Sharim. When Rabbi got sick, they took him to Tzipairi. As we turn over to Kov Daled Amud Aleph, why? Demalia, because the area of Tzipairi is lofty, Ubasis Avira, and the air is good for him, and the air is very sweet, and therefore at Rebbe's final demise, we should call it, I don't want to call it demise, when Rebbe was on his deathbed, they brought him to Tzipairi in order to live out his days over there. Says the Gemara on the top of Kov Daled Amud Aleph, Hahu Yoyma Denachla Shei the Rebbe, on the day the Rebbe was nifter, Gaz Rabbanan Tanisa, the Rabbanan declared a fast, they Ubay Rachman, they Davin Vamri, Kol Man, Damar Nachla Shei the Rebbe, Yadker B'cheref. Whoever says the Rebbe is nifter, Yiddaker B'cheref, should be pierced with his sword. Salik Amsa the Rebbe Leigra, the mates from the Rebbe went up to the roof. Amra, and she said, El Yoinim of action as Rebbe, the upper spheres are asking for Rebbe in Shemayim V'tachtainim, and down here of action as Rebbe, they're davening for Rebbe. And the Amsa, the maidservant of Rebbe, who we find all over Shas, she davened that those below the Tachtainim, Klal Yisrael, should win, they should overcome Tachtainim over the Elyonim. Even the Chazi Kamazimni Dial Beis Akise. But then she saw how many times Rebbe was going to the bathroom because of his stomach ailment. And he had to take off his tefillin and become tired, and he was in pain. Amr, she said, she davened and no, Hashem, the Elyonim should win over the upper spheres, the heavens, because Rebbe's in so much pain. They didn't stop davening. Shakle Kuza. And they didn't stop davening, and since they didn't stop davening, Rebbe couldn't be nifter. Shakla Kuza Shadim Egra, she took an earthenware vessel, she threw it from the roof. Ishtiku Mirachme Lara to the ground. Ishtiku Mirachme, for a moment they stopped davening, V'nachlam Sheda Rebbe. And at that moment, Rebbe was nifter. Amle Rabbanan Bar Kabara. The Rabbanan said to Bar Kabara, Zil Ayin, go and see how is Rebbe doing. Azal Ashche Denachlam Shei. Bar Kabara saw that Rebbe was nifter. Kar Lelavushei. He ripped his clothing, he tore kriya, but he put the ripped part behind him. He opened up his mouth. Bar Kabara said, and the angels, and the righteous ones, took hold of the Arna Kodesh. And the angels, the Malachim, have beat up, have vanquished, have won over the righteous ones. Vinishvu Aroin HaKodesh. The Aron HaKodesh has been captured. Amru lei noch nafshei. Amr lehu atan kamritu v'anon lo kamitu. You said it, I didn't say it, I didn't want to be the one to say that Rebbe was nifter, but of course they got the message, and indeed, Rebbe was nifter. Pshas b'ti rasal shal Rebbe. We're 20 lines down, Kaf Daled Amud Aleph. First word on the line is Zakaf. When Rebbe was nifter, Rebbe famously, Zakav Eser Etzba'aseh, he picked up his 10 fingers, Klapi Meila upward, and Amari Bana Shalaylam. I told with my 10 fingers in Torah and I did not get any enjoyment from this world, even with my little finger. Will that it should be peace in my resting place. He will come with peace. They will rest on their resting place. Ask the Gemara, Al Mishkavchami Baile. What does it mean in the plural, Al Mishkavaisam? Should be on your resting place. Explains the Gemara, what happens? We get a glimpse into what happens in the heavenly spheres when a tzaddik is nifter. Amru Malachi Ashars of the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, tzaddik plani ba. There's a tzaddik coming, they tell Hashem. Amr Lahem, Hashem says to all the tzaddikim in heaven, Yavo tzaddikim yatzol likrasai. Go out and greet him. And then after they greet him, the heavenly voice goes out, go back to your resting places. Amar Rav Elazar, one of the groups of malachim say to him, come b'shalom, boy b'shalom. And one says, he who walks in straight path, Shalom Yanuchu al Mishkavaisam. When a Rasha leaves this world, 3 groups of terrifying, destructive angels go out. There's no peace. You can lie in your eternal resting place. Descend and be laid down with those that have a black heart. And that concludes the Gemara about the Betira of Rebbe. Continues, we're at the Mishnah on the bottom half of Kufdalim and Aleph, back to our sugya of Kesubos. Says the Mishnah, calls the man she bebeis aviyah, as long as the almana is living in the father's house, she could collect the Kesuba la'ilam forever. Calls man she bebeis vayla. But if she's living in the husband's house, the deceased husband, she collects Kesuba for 25 years. Explains to Rameir, what's 25 years? For 25 years, she's utilizing the estate of her husband and all the usages that she gets, the favors that she gets, that equals to her Ksuba, Divri Rameir, Sham Mishim Rashbag, in the name of Shimon Gamliel. No, calls Manchi Beis Vayla, Govik Subasa La'ilam. She's in her husband's house, she collecting Ksuba forever, calls Manchi Beis Aviyah, Govik Subasa Esim Chamishanim. The opposite, when she's in her father's house, then she only has 25 years. Mesa, when she is niftar, what happens? Says the Gemara, Mesa, when she is niftar, then the Yarshim have 25 years. If they don't mention anything, then they forfeit their rights to collect the Ksuba. Continues, says the Gemara, Omar le Abaya le Rav Yosef, the din in the Mishnah, asks Abaya to Rav Yosef, is it possible? You just said in the Mishnah that Ramir said in the name of Rashbag, then in those 25 years, she does favors with the money, which equals to the amount of her ksuba. Ask Abaya, 1 second. Are you telling me that an ani is utilized in 25 years, and as well a wealthy girl like Marisa, the daughter of Vaisas, as well, only has 25 years? She has an incredible ksuba. Amar Lei, Rav Yisrael responds, from Gamla, Shechma, according to the camel is the burden. Just like the heavier camel carries the heavier load, so too, a wealthier woman is going to utilize the money more. She's going to be doing more favors than a poor woman, and therefore it's true that in 25 years, she is going to utilize and use up her ksuba, and indeed, the amount is going to be the same whether they're poor or rich. Ibailu asked the Gemara, the Rameir, Mausha Teshlash. According to Rameir, what is halacha? Whether do we prorate the ksuba? And let's say she collects after 10 years, do we say that she utilized 10 years worth of her ksuba? Says the Gemara, Teku. We continue 2 lines from the wide lines. The Chachamim disagreed on the Tanakam of the Mishnah. The Chachamim said if she's in her father's house, then she gets 25 years. But in her husband's house, she gets forever. Amalei Abaya the Rav Yosef, says Abaya, Atoi Kadem Shigiyasa Achama Goivik Subasa, Alach Shigiyasa Achama, Loi Gavya. Asks Abaya a similar question to what Abaya asked Rav Yosef before. Could it be that if she comes one moment before the 25 years, she gets the entire ksuba? If she comes one moment after the 25 years, after Shkiyas Achama, then she gets nothing. Bahu Porta, Achelta on the first very wide line. Is it true that in that small amount of time, she's Meichel the rest of the ksuba? Amar Lei, Rav Yosef responds, Ein Yaz, Kom T'cham Keinhu. This is a very important Gemara to understand many other Gemaras in Shas. As often we wonder, how does it work that the measurements of Chazal are so precise? Is it really that exact? Is it really a Kizayis, a Kabeya, Mem Safar, a Mikvah, and says the Gemara, this is the way that all the Midas, all the Dinim of Chachamim are. Ba'arba'im Sava Toivel, 40 Sat is a Mikvah, Ba'arba'im Sa Chaser Kortav, missing one little bit, Eino Yachal Litval Bam, you can't be Toivel. And then we can ask the same question. Is there really such a difference in that one little bit? The answer is, this is how the Chachamim make their measurements. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Heid Rav Yishmael Bar Rav Yisrael, Heid Rabbi Shamar Mishamar Ba'aviv, Lo Yishal Al Shein Shar Ksuba Yotzim Tachas Yodel. This is only if we only say that she is Meichel Ksuba after 25 years. She doesn't have the Shtar Ksuba. The Shtar Ksuba Yosef Mitachas Yedea, Govi Ksuba, so Elam she can collect forever. For Rav Elazar, I feel the Shtar Ksuba Yosef Mitachas Yedea, and Gova Ela Ad, Esef Achami Shanim, she still only gets 25 years. So Masav Rav Sheishes, 5 lines from the bottom. Baal Chayv Govish Leba Askaro. Ask Rav Sheishes, the Brisa teaches us that a Baal Chayv collects the debt even after 25 years without making any claim. Hey Chidam, what's the case? He doesn't have a shtar. My Gavia, how does Baal Chayv collect? El Dinakishtara. Must be a case that he has a shtar. And from here we can infer Baal Chayv Udulav Barichulo. A Baal Chayv is never Meichel, Almana Cheltohu. But Almana is Meichel. And what do we see? This is even in a case that she has the shtar Chayv. We're assuming that she's Meichel after 25 years. Explains the Gemara, he asked the Kasha, and he answers it. Really, the Brisa is talking about a case where the Baal Chayv does not have a shtar. And the case in this Brisa where the Baal Chayv could collect Shalei Ba'askara without announcing it, the reason is where the Baal Chayv, the lender, the borrower, is Moideh that he owes the money. Ask the Gemara 1 second. 3 lines to the bottom. Shainim. The Rambanan taught us in a brisa with regarding this din in our Mishnah of the 25 years. We meichel ksuba. Garusha rei kabal chayv. A grusha is like a Baal Chayv. That when she is quiet, just like a Baal Chayv, she's not meichler chayv. Hechidami asked the Gemara. Eidolay naking ksuba. But my God, how is she collecting? I love the naking ksuba. And from here again, we have the same kasha. Grusha udulav azechili. Only a grusha is not being Baichel Mana Chalta. So we see even with a Shtar Chayv, the man is being Baichel. Answers the Gemara, it's the same case that the case is discussing that the Chayav, that the Yarshim are Maida, or the Gerusha's ex-husband admits that he actually owes her the money. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Tani Rav Yehuda. Says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Rav Yehuda Bar Kaza b'Masnita taught us Tevei Bar Kaza Tava Ksubasa, that if any time during the 25 years this almana demands her ksuba, as we turn over to Kafdalit Amid Beis Harehi Kibetz Chila. If at any point during the 25 years she comes to Bezdin demanding her ksuba, then it's as if we restart the clock. She has another 25 years from that moment. I'm explicit in this brisa that if she has a shtar ksuba under her hand, then she's able to collect her ksuba for as long as she wants, even more than 25 years. Shalach le Rav Nachman Rav Chisda Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov. Rav Nachman Rav Chisda says Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov Landin Rabbeinu Ksheshar ksuba yetzi mitachas yedeh machlokes or kshein shar ksuba yetzi mitachas yedeh. Asks the Gemara a question on the din that we're discussing about the shtar ksuba being in her hand. Is it ksheshar ksuba yetzi mitachas yedeh machlokes? Is the machlokes Rameir the Chachamim only when she has the Kshar Ksuba? Or are they arguing even when she does not have a Kshar Ksuba? What's the question? The question is, do the Chachamim agree if she has a Kshar Ksuba, then she has even more than 25 years when she's living in her father's house? Or do they hold that no, even if she has a Kshar Ksuba, she only has a 25-year time limit? And furthermore, and part two of the question is, Halacha Kedivrei Mi, who are we asking like the Chachamim or Rameir? So Shalach Lei, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak responds, the debate in our Mishnah is when there's no Shar Ksuba. Like we just saw. Halacha Kedivrei Chachamim, or asking like the Chachamim. And similarly, the Gemara proves, Kiasa Rav Dimi, 12 lines down, the first one in the line is Asa, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amar Rav Shimon Pazi, Rav Shimon Levi, Mishum Bar Kapara, Lo Yishanu Alamanu Masayim, that the din in the Mishnah, that she has this 25-year time limit, is only with regard, and we've seen a very similar halacha many times, is only with regard to the Ikar Ksuba, the Mana, or Masayim. Avol Taisefes, but with regard to the extra Ksuba, Yesh La, says the Gemara, the Chachamim agree that she receives the Taisefes even after 25 years. And that has nothing to do with the Mishnah. Whereas Rav Avu Rav Yochanan Tosefes Ein La, no, after 25 years, she does not even get the Tosefes. Why? A cloud that we've seen already, that the Tanai Ksuba, the extra parts of the Ksuba, have the same status of the Ksuba, and therefore, just like we're saying in our Mishnah, that you'd forfeit the Iker Ksuba after 25 years, so too with the Tanai Ksuba. It says the Gemara Eitmar Nami, we learned to say Rav Ama, Ravuna, Rav Lo Shana Lamana Masayim Tzavas Yishla, and Amar Rav Ravuna, Amar Rav Hachi, Amar Lei Ishtikin Kamrit, or Ishkin Kamrit. Ask the Gemara, are you asking the question to say I shall be quiet? Or are you asking me ashkayon? Are you offering me a drink? Interesting question. The Gemara is saying, are you upset with what I'm saying? You want to tell me to be quiet? Or are you so happy with what I'm saying? You want to make a l'chayim? Amar Lei Rav Abba responds, Ishtikan Kamra, I was talking to make you quiet. I did not like for you to say how the Tanai Ksuba is going to be equated as the exact same thing as the Ksuba itself. Says the Gemara, we're about 20 lines down, we're at the two dots, Koftalim and Beis, and as everyone sees, we are zoning in on the second to last parak, Baruch Hashem, of this incredible Masechta. Says the Gemara, the mother-in-law of Rav Chia Aricha was his brother's wife. And after the brother died, she was an almana and she lived in her father's house. So Rav Chia, who was one of the Yarshim, was obligated to support. Vizanu Eser v'chamei shanim, he supported her for 25 years. While she was living in her father's house. L'saif, after 25 years, he stopped supporting her. Amrullah, she says, Havli mizayni, give me more food. Amrullah, less chamazayni, you don't have any more. Havli ksuba, she says, okay, so give me my ksuba. Amrullah, loy mizayni islach, v'loy ksuba islach. You don't get anything. 25 years have collapsed. You don't get anything. Tavate ladina kamei de Rabbi Arshila. So continues the Gemara. This almana summoned and went to Din Taira by Rabbi Arshila. Amar lei, Emerli is a gufa dovda. So Rabbi Arshila said to Rav Chia Aricha, tell me exactly what was the story that transpired over the year. Amar lei, he said, Amar lei is nita as v'chamei shanim b'bei nasha. So Rav Chia said, I supported her for 25 years in her father's house. B'chaye damar debekasvoi am tayila. And I give a shvuah by the life of Rabbi Arshila on my own shoulders that I feed her. And Rav Chia Aricha tells over that for 25 years, I made sure personally to support her, but now after 25 years, she lost her mezainis, she lost her ksuba. Amar lei. So Rabbi Arshila responds, what's the reason? We have to understand the reason behind the din of the Mishnah. What's the reason why in the Mishnah we said the Chachamim held that as long as she's in her husband's household, she gets her ksuba whenever she wants? The reason is because we say we say that the reason that she never asked for a ksuba because she was embarrassed. Since the Yarshim were honoring her, she was embarrassed to say, I want my ksuba. And therefore the fact that she was quiet for 25 years doesn't show that she was meichel. And similarly, the reason she never asked for a ksuba was why? Was because she was embarrassed. And the fact that you yourself, you Rav Chia Aricha, you're godless, you personally fed her for these 25 years, she felt very good, she was honorable, and therefore she was embarrassed to ask for the ksuba, and only after you stopped feeding her did she ask for it, and therefore she was never meichel, zil, havla, go and pay her. But what happened? Lo yashkach, Rav Chia Aricha did not listen to the din Torah, cause of la drachta nechase. So Rabbi Arshila says, what are you doing? I paskind. So now I'm going to write a drachta, a document of seizure against your property that your estate has to pay her. Also, like I made the Rava. So Rav Chia Aricha came to Rava. He wasn't happy with the din. Amar lei, he said to Rava, Chazi mar echan danan. Do you see the din Torah? Do you see what Rabbi Arshila paskind? Amar lei, Rava responds, Shaber danach. he pasked correctly, you have to go and pay her ksuba. Amar lei, the amra lei. So now the almana speaks up and says to Rava, if it's true that he has to pay, leiza le'adali peirei timan timan yoyma arinda. So now the almana is getting greedy. She says, 1 second, if he has to pay me, so now he should have to give me payers from that day until now, because the moment that they wrote the Shtar Adrachta, the Caesar document, from that moment he really had to pay me. Amar la, the Rava said, Achli Adrachta, show me the Shtar, show me the document of Caesar. Chazi Adulavi Kasaba, and then Rava saw that they never wrote into the document Vishtamodna, Dinachasam Elu Demistaninon. They did not write that we, the Bezdin, have recognized, have certified that these properties belong to the estate. Amar Allah, so he said to her, Adrachta Lav Shapir. I'm sorry to say, the Adrachta, the Shtar, is not written properly. Lav Shapir Kasiva. Amar Alei. Meaning, the Shtar only allows you to collect from Rav Chia Aricha himself, but not from the estate. And therefore, he told her, you were greedy, and guess what? Now I looked at the Shtar, and I see it's puzzle. Amr Alei, she says to Rava, Tizla Adrachta. Okay, so forget the Adrachta, and Ishko mi Yoma, the Shlima Yoma Achrasta, Adashta. So let me at least collect from the day, let me collect the produce that he ate from that day that he had to pay me until now. So even if the Shtar Adrachta is no good, but I'm supposed to be the owner of that field. Therefore, Rav Chia Aricha has been living in the field. He has to pay me for that. Amar Allah, Rava says, Hani mili echadoloi kasav tu'us abadrachta. Says Rava, I'm sorry. This is only when there's no mistake in the Shtar Adrachta in the Caesar document. I'm sorry, the document has no validity, and therefore the fact that he was eating out of this field is meaningless. Amar Allah, so she says, okay. 1 second, but you Rava, this woman obviously was a learned woman, and she says, but you Rava are the one that says that if there's no achrayis in a document, it's a mistake of the cipher. Meaning we don't say it was a mistake that was meant to be. So too over here, why don't we say that the reason the Shtar Adrachta was written incorrectly was that the cipher, the scribe messed up, and it should have messed up the whole document. Amarle Rava says, over here we can't say this was a mistake of the scribe. Why? Because over here Rabbi Shila made the mistake in the beginning, and therefore the entire document is pasul. Now the Gemara says, what was Rabbi Shila's mistake? Rabbi Shila thought that these property that Rav Chia Aricha owns and those that he was Yeresh, both are his. Mali mahani. And therefore Rabbi Shila thought, what's the difference? If he collects from his own estate or he collects from the estate that he inherited, either way. But says Rabbi, it's not true, it's in the Azla. There are times, and that's why Rabbi Shila wrote the Shtar Adrachta, open-ended for everyone. But says the Gemara, it's not true. It might have happened that she'll go and make the field better. Udabayla mekasva, while those of the husband will deteriorate. V'amar la, and the Yarshim are going to say to her, Shekil didach, v'havli didi, take yours and give me back mine. V'asla afuki laz al beidina, and to come back to be a laz on the Bezdin. And therefore, we see that this document is completely pasul, and this woman was not able to collect neither from Rav Chia's fields nor from the fields of the estate. And with that we conclude, Hadran Allah Chanoisei. We're officially in the final week of this incredible Masechta that we've been learning together. And B'siyat D'Shmaya, we should begin the 13th Perek, Daf Kovhei, tomorrow's Daf. And in a week's time, celebrate, as we learned today, celebrate Al Chaim, have a drink, a shtiya, not a silence, a shtika, B'siyat D'Shmaya.